Handstand blocks can be a great training tool for hand balancers on every level. I personally love using them for one-arm handstand warm-up, and there's more reasons why you might be interested in buying a pair and start using them yourself, no matter what level you're at. So in this video, we're going to talk about what handstand blocks are great for, their purpose, and their role in your training. And of course, how to get up onto the blocks, because I know a lot of you are interested in handstand blocks, but not really sure where to begin. So let's get started. So first, we're going to go over some benefits that blocks can offer us. And the first one is that it is really wrist friendly. When we're balancing on blocks, they're actually putting a lot less pressure on our wrists compared to the floor. There tends to be more weight in the middle of our hands and even towards our fingertips when we're on blocks. And if you're working with any type of wrist injury, using blocks might be a great option for you. And the second benefit is that they're actually easier to balance on the blocks compared to the floor. On the blocks, you can fully utilize all 5 fingers and your hand to claw the block. That is why it is easier. Whereas on the floor, your hand is mostly flat and is in a much more passive role. Whereas if you're gripping full on with your fingertips onto the blocks, you have much more surface area that you're controlling. But the downside is that if you're too used to gripping the blocks with your fingertips, going back to the floor without the extra help will be a little bit more challenging. So that's just something you can think about. Maybe not use blocks all the time, but just supplement it into your training. And for me personally, I like using the blocks for one-arm handstand drills and warm-up, where you're shifting your body from left to right along with some level changes. Drills like these really emphasize good technique, and it just gives you a different look and feel as to what you're normally used to, and it just makes you more complete. And lastly, I think they're a great way to prepare for canes, because when you're on canes, you have to be on blocks, and there's just no way around that. And now I'm going to show you how to enter into handstand on the blocks itself. And it's best if you already know how to do a straddle entry on the floor first, so that when you add the blocks, it's a lot easier to manage. You're not going to have to completely learn a new movement while adding more height changes. About the straddle position, I made a whole video talking about its alignment, how to enter into it, so check it out here if you haven't already. So the first obstacle we usually face when we go to blocks is usually the change in height. When jumping up onto something just a little taller, it can throw you off completely if you're not used to it. So the first thing I would recommend is doing straddle jumps on an elevated platform that has a similar height as the blocks. That way you'll have the same grip as you would have with the floor, but just adding a little bit of height. So the first step is you want to have something that's similar to the height of the blocks, but without the change in grip. So in this case, I've put a wooden board on top of my blocks, and it's going to be a little bit higher than the block height, but it's going to give you a similar feel in terms of the height changes. So basically, that's kind of how we started. We're going to jump up into a straddle, but the beginner mistake would be to push right away, right when we jump, because the timing now is going to be a little bit different. Now with the added height, we have to delay the push just slightly so that when we get stacked, that's when we push more. But when we push earlier, let's say I do this, I'll get stuck in the back. But if I push at the right time, when my hips are stacked, that's when you can elevate your hips and legs and finish the straddle entry. Here, and push, 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 push. If I push too early, I'll get stuck in the back. And if I push just in time, I'll end up here. So once you're used to the height, now let's get used to the balance and the hold with the added grip of the blocks. So when we train with the wall, we can just put the blocks in front of the wall, and we're going to kick up to the wall like normal. One foot's gonna touch the wall, and then you're gonna bring both feet away from the wall and together, and that's where we're gonna find the balance and train the hold. Start here, just lightly touching the wall. Find your middle with your shoulders, and then from there, you can connect your feet together. Try to bring your line as straight as you can. Everything should be the same with the floor, except now you have more fingertip strength to hold. And just try to hold 10 to 15 seconds here. After that, you can slow down, come down, and go again and again. And that's how we train the balance. So now that you have more experience in balancing with the blocks with some assistance, it's time to put it together without the wall. So same thing like I talked about earlier, when you jump, you want to wait till your hips are stacked, and then that's when you push. So you grip the block. You can either have 3 fingers in front or 2 fingers in front. It's really up to personal preference. I like it with 3 fingers in front because I can use my pads a lot more. So still everything is the same as a normal straddle jump, except now we're a little bit elevated and you can use your fingertips a little bit more. So I want you to take a look at my shoulder and my wrist. Basically, the point of power or push is when these 2 points are stacked, and that's when you can exert most of your strength. But before that point, basically if you push, you're gonna go back where you came from. So I'm gonna do one where it's stacked. So see, my shoulders are over my wrist, and then I push, and then I land at that good place where I can hold it. And let's do one where I'm pushing a lot earlier, like if the floor was there. So now with the added height, I have to delay the push just slightly to wait for my shoulder to be vertical. So now let's make that a little bit earlier, as if I'm on the floor. Push. And I'm basically preventing myself from going forward. Another good thing to remember is when we're on blocks, we're usually grabbing onto the blocks very hard. It's a beginner thing. A lot of people do it because it's there for you. But if we grab it too hard, the thing is that we are preventing ourselves from going into the middle of the blocks, so that we're always onto the wrist side and we're falling back the same way we came up, and we're never really able to stack ourselves on top of the blocks. So when it's done correctly, you should have even weight distributed throughout your hands. There's no one corner or one direction where your weight should be concentrated, but rather even pressure throughout your hands. Your fingers are not gripping too hard, although there is some grip present. If you have any other tips about training with blocks, feel free to leave a comment below. If you want to support me and encourage me to keep making videos like this, please leave a comment, hit like, and hit that subscribe button. And if there's any other topics you would like me to cover, please feel free to leave a comment below. Right now, I do have space for online one-on-one training or custom programming and video feedback. So if you're interested, visit my website below for more information. See you guys next time.